Before we jump into the review, I do want to make mention that I am compensated when you use our affiliate links in the description below, but we actually have a really cool charitable donation aspect to that, which we'll cover later in this video. But you came here for an updated 2025 review of Bizee. So most likely you're setting up an LLC because about 80% of all new business entities are LLCs, but they can also handle things such as a nonprofit or an S Corp or C Corp setup as well. For this video, we'll be mostly talking about LLCs. And this is going to be a little bit longer of a video, and it's because I don't know if you have watched previous content of mine. So what I'm going to have right now is a timestamp of when we're going to be getting into specifically updates around 2025 for Bizee in case you've watched some of my other content. But if you're not familiar with terms such as piercing the corporate veil, registered agent, or commingling funds, then you definitely want to watch the content right now that we're going to be getting into. So the reason I do this is a lot of people get their LLC set up, but they don't know exactly what it does for them, and they don't know how to properly maintain it. And if you don't do those things, it's pretty much null and void, and it has very little benefit to you. So let's say that you're setting up a coffee shop and you want to get an LLC because somebody said you should do that. Well, the reason you get the LLC is it separates your business and personal assets. So if you were to be sued at the coffee shop, somebody gets injured, the LLC creates something called a corporate veil. That is the division between your personal and business assets. So when they sue you, they can't come after your personal car, personal home, personal bank account, those things. That's why an LLC is so important. But the issue that a lot of people have is they don't understand how it works. When you're being sued, that attorney suing you is going to try to pierce the corporate veil. Basically what they're doing is they're trying to find cracks in your LLC. So I want to list off some cracks that are very common so that you don't make these common mistakes. One of them is called commingling funds. This is when you don't get a business bank account set up right away. So instead you start running your business through your personal bank account. A judge overseeing the case may say that you are guilty of commingling funds. This was not a legit LLC. They pierced the corporate veil and therefore can come after your personal assets. So you want to make sure right away you get a business bank account and get that set up. Another thing you should be aware of is renewing your LLC. A lot of people don't realize that it's not like a one-time deal. You set up your LLC with your state, but then you may need to renew it yearly or every 2 years, depending on which state you're in. A lot of times I prefer these services such as Bizee because they actually give you lifetime alerts and they remind you because it benefits them because for a fee, they will renew your LLC for you. But if you want to do it on your own, you can do that, but now you have a service that's reminding you. I can tell you most states are not going to do this because they're not well thought out when it comes to these things. Now, another thing you should be aware of is a registered agent. Sometimes it's referred to as a resident agent. It goes by other names as well. But what this is when you are sued by an attorney, that there's going to be a service of process notice. The resident agent, registered agent, they're going to make sure that you get the proper notices and documentation and that you're showing up to court because you got that information. The requirements of this is, and it is required that you have a registered agent on file, is they must be within the state that you are filing and it cannot be a PO box. Now, one of the cool things about Bizee is they offer that registered agent service free for the first year, and then it's $119 annually after that. Now, what you can see on the screen right here is an LLC cost calculator that we've created. It's changed over the years because we've seen some changes throughout these services, such as Bizee. I believe I mentioned it earlier. They used to be called Incfile. They rebranded at the beginning of 2024. The reason that they did that is that they were actually looking to expand their services, be more of a business platform, not just setting up your LLC, but managing your business altogether. And we'll get into that and we'll look into the back end dashboard in a little bit. But you will see the different fees that start to stack up here. And one of the things you'll notice is if we go down here and you find registered agent, Bizee is free the first year and then $119. These other services are $199 a year for that same service. So that's one of the reasons a lot of times that I recommend Bizee over other services. But what I would like to do at this point is start to talk about some of the changes that Bizee has had. So you've already watched some previous reviews of them. You're very familiar with different things. But Bizee is a little bit different from where they were a few years ago. Now, if we open up Bizee website, this is typically what it's going to look like. It's always changing, but I'm going to click Start My Business. Their pricing model has changed a little bit. They still have the $0 plus state fee. In Colorado, it's $50. It's going to be different in every state. But you'll see that it's a 3-week filing time on the first 2 packages. So before in the basic package, they would file it the next day. Now you're looking at an expedited filing time of $50 if you want to have the 1-day filing time instead of 3 weeks. What I have seen from all the different services out there is they're lowering their base price. All of them, Bizee was the first to do this, starting at $0 plus state fee, but now you're starting to see like an extra fee if you want it to be turned around within a day. One of the other services, I think it's Tailored Brands, they charge $79 for this. I've seen $99 for next day filing. So it's not bad if you do want that expedited, but I did want to make you aware of that is something that has changed. So what you can see on the screen right now are highlighted questions, comments that we've had from viewers just like you on previous Bizee content. And I thought these were great questions and worth addressing because these, again, may be things that you might be confused about. So how do I go back and correct the spelling of my name? It's only giving me the option to change my address, but I want to fix my name spelling. Now, I'm assuming that they're talking about the name of their business, but regardless of what it is, what that is you're going to file articles of amendment. Now, this is something that I have tried to do for my own business. And if you're somebody who is not detail oriented, which is a lot of people like myself, and that's why I recommend these services, is I ended up going through Bizee to change mine because my address changed on the business. I just kept getting errors back from the state when I was trying to do it on my own. So I eventually paid Bizee to do this for me. But this is what you need to do. It's file articles of amendment. If you ever have a change that you need to do here, so right underneath business management, that is where you can see the amendment. This is also where you can see the annual report as well. I mentioned that earlier in this video. You need to file your annual report. Bizee will do that for you. One of the things that I love about their service though is they still have that a la carte pricing to that. You make a decision if you want them to do it. You can do it on your own. It's not just forcing you into a subscription package. Another question that came up here, and this one's from Christina the Most, 8912. Is this a secure checkout? Yes, it is. Bizee has actually done more than 1 million filings, and I can give you kind of like a behind the scenes insight as far as Bizee is concerned. I am an affiliate of theirs, and I'm also an affiliate of a lot of different LLC services because I do so much content in this space. They are by far the most strict with affiliate disclosure. So at the beginning of this video, I gave you an affiliate disclosure. That is because they require it, because that is what you're supposed to do. Other services do not care. They are just kind of cutting corners, so to speak. I have found that I respect them for this. It makes them a little bit harder to work with, but I respect the fact that they're following the rules and making sure they're dotting their I's and crossing their T's when they're running their own business. And yes, it is a secure checkout. That might be too much information, but to me, it is relevant because that is my own experience of dealing with them. This question from Andres Rodriguez, UL7HR. Hello, if I use Bizee Services, do you know if my real name appears on the internet if I search my information about my LLCs? Thanks. Yes. But it depends. When you use a registered agent service, that is one article of information that is going to not be on your LLC in the database. The other thing that you can do is you can set up a virtual mailbox. All right. Now, Bizee offers this service for you. And this is something that I have done as well. When you have a virtual address and mailbox, what it does is especially if you're somebody who's running your business out of your home, you don't want to have that information. It's very easy to find that information. You can just search stuff like state plus entity database search, and you will find the database and you'll be able to search those things. If you want those things to be more anonymous, those are some steps you can take. There are people that will say that you can get an LLC set up in like Wyoming or Delaware or states like Nevada that are good for privacy. I've actually spoke to an attorney about this, and what he told me is that there's a lot of mistakes that happen because of that retroactively can hurt you. Now, in his particular case, he had a client that had a bunch of gas stations in New York State, and they filed them all through Delaware, but then New York State wanted their piece of the pie because they never set up foreign LLCs for the Delaware, and New York State retroactively was trying to acquire all these fees from them, and it ended up being this huge headache and mess for them because they went through Delaware. Now, you can consult with an attorney for your specific case, but what I am finding just from a kind of 30,000 foot view is that the US government is getting a little bit more specific on the information that they're gathering from you. So I'm going to go down a little bit of a tangent here, but again, if you're thinking about getting an LLC set up, I think this is really important. What you're seeing happen more and more now is that states are trying to get more information and collect when they can. I just talked about that story with Delaware and the gas stations. In the state of California, something they're doing now is if you hit a certain threshold of sales within their state, let's say you have an e-commerce business and you're selling watches and you sell a certain amount of dollar value of watches to people in the state of California, they're trying to collect income tax, not sales tax, not the 8, 9, 10%, whatever it is in California because it's expensive there, actual income tax from you, the business owner. So that's a good example of how different states are trying to get more money from you as the business owner. And now let's talk about the fact that if you start setting up a Wyoming LLC or a Delaware LLC and you're not in those states, the US started something called the Beneficial Ownership Information Report. If I go back here a little bit, you can actually find this if you just do like a BOIR filing right here, and then you go here on finsend.gov, and then you can file this right here. This is super important. What this is that you have 90 days after filing your LLC to file this report. The reason the government is doing this is they're trying to root out fraud that is happening with LLCs. Perhaps it's another country that is buying up a bunch of land in the United States, or illegal activities that are happening through these shell LLCs, so that they have all this information in this database on you for your LLCs. So again, that's another thing where it's like, okay, here's somebody who's in this state but filing over here with their LLC. What's going on with that information? Another thing you should know is this is something that's actually being challenged right now in the state of Texas. Texas is claiming that this is unconstitutional. So this is kind of in flux at this moment going into 2025 of whether or not you're going to have to file this. But right now you have to file it within the first 90 days. And if you don't, you can get daily fines. And I believe it's like something like $500 a day if you don't file this BOI report here. Now, that is something that a lot of different services will help you do, but you can also run through this. It took me about 5-8 minutes to figure this out and go through this report myself. But I just wanted to make you aware of that. I know I just went on a long tangent, but again, the purpose of this video is to make sure that you're aware of all these things and hopefully not overwhelm you, but to make sure that you're setting things up correctly. All right, next question. This came from Sharita4404. My first issue is I just signed up my LLC and domain and email at $18 per year for 5G. I think she's talking about how much space she gets with the 5G. I'm not positive, but I don't want the auto renewal, but I locked in. I can't cancel the renewal on my card on file without giving a replacement payment method. I don't like that at all. So basically, she's getting into the, she did her domain and email through Bizee. They may not like it that I say this, but I say this for all the different providers, especially on the email side. I prefer that I would set up with Google Workspace. Microsoft 365 is an option too, but the price is a little bit lower, but it's not so much the price because that's not a huge difference. Like if you get a domain through them or a domain directly through somebody, you're probably talking about a few dollars a year difference, but it's more so I want to make sure that you have ownership of that thing. And if you're familiar with Gmail and that's what you use and you set up Google Workspace, it's going to look very familiar to you and you're keeping everything in that space. One of the things I came across with, I believe it was Northwest Registered Agent, a competitor of Bizee's, is that if you try to move like away from their domain or a phone number that they set up for you, they own it and they won't transfer it to you. So that's another thing. I'm not saying Bizee does that, but this is one of the things that I would recommend looking into and setting up for yourself. I'm actually going to create a video on that in the future on how to do that, but just something I wanted to make you aware of. All right, question here from Mushashi Okada. This actually came in 2 weeks ago, and it said, this is the BOI filing report included in the LLC setup with Bizee Premium Package this week, but I got an email saying I need to file that, and it would be $99. That's helpful. I wasn't sure the pricing top of mind through Bizee on that, but again, that's the BOIR filing. You will see that quite a bit no matter what LLC service you go through. But again, this is an example of why going through a service like Bizee is helpful, because they're actually notifying you of that. The federal government in your state is not going to send you an email or a letter to be like, hey, did you do this? They're just going to send you a letter saying that you owe them money because you didn't. All right, last question I wanted to cover here. So I want to set up an LLC and I'm looking at the gold or platinum package. I don't have a business bank account. I don't have a business credit card yet. I'm going to be using my personal money to purchase. How do I move this purchase amount over to my business after it started? Great question, because at the beginning of this video, we talked about commingling funds and keeping your personal and business assets separate. Well, in this particular case, you don't have the business. It's kind of like a chicken and the egg scenario, right? Like you may want to get your LLC set up and you're also your EIN, which is your employer identification number, and then get your business set up. But you don't necessarily have that already. So in this particular case, they're talking about the gold or platinum package. That has been rebranded to standard and premium, but they're talking about these fees here that you'd incur, including your state fee. And now we're looking at Alabama. Just make sure that you, in your bookkeeping, that you mention that that personal expense that came out of your personal bank account was in fact a business expense, so that you get that tax deduction, because it is a true business expense. Quickly, I do want to make mention of the affiliate links in the description below. When you use our links, we do earn a commission, but what we do is we donate $20 to charity on your behalf. behalf. And just in 2024 alone, I'm looking at my updated numbers here, $68,140 we were able to donate to charity. And we really appreciate it. Yes, we do this as a business, just as you want to do this as a business to earn money. But as you grow with that business, it's great to be able to give back and figure out ways to do this. And I find it to be a really cool win-win. So thank you for considering using our links. And if you haven't checked this out already, check out the Best LLC Services in 2025 video, where we go into more in depth on all these topics so that you make sure that you make the right decision for your needs. All right, I'll catch you in the next video.